I invite Oskar Hartmann, who has been coming to NOAH for many, many years, from Russia, from Moscow. Please, we have a seat over here. Oskar really likes slides and giving presentations.
Yeah, I was at BCG, so I refused to do more slides, and I asked for a fireside chat with Marco.
So let's chat. For the ones who do not know, Oskar runs, I would say, Russia's largest e-commerce business in terms of moving goods, certainly. He is a pioneer of e-commerce in Russia, because the Russian e-commerce market is very different to others because of some obstacles. Maybe we start with the obstacles.
Yeah, obstacles are the same and they grow. The first is very high logistics cost. So the OPEX of e-commerce as a percentage of net sales in Russia is much higher than any other country. So Russia is now the most expensive country to send a letter by far, by 2 times to the next. The expensive country to send a parcel in the world. And the most expensive country to do basically all the operations, because there's no subsidies, there's no government incentives, and the system doesn't really work. So this is the biggest obstacle. The next biggest is the payment is still majority cash. So the people prefer to pay cash on delivery, which makes e-commerce much less effective. And the third one is trust. So the consumers continue to experience a lack of trust in terms of local and internet companies. And all these 3 combined, they continue to exist, but they don't change the macro trends. The macro trends is still e-commerce is exploding.
How big is e-commerce 2013 in Russia? And don't say in ruble, we don't know how that currency.
I would say it's 450 billion rubles, so it's $15 billion, I believe, in terms of moving goods plus travel.
And how much growth was that?
It's 35, I believe it's 35 to 40% growth this year. And all the macroeconomics are very good. So if you look at the macro, it's fantastic. All the devil is in the detail. So the industry has been booming. Inside the industry, the most booming sector is fashion. So in 2008, fashion was 0% of e-commerce, and this year fashion is 20% of e-commerce. So just like in China, in Germany, in the US, fashion e-commerce is becoming the biggest segment. So I believe right now, actually I think right now we are overtaking electronics. So fashion is becoming bigger in terms of sales to electronics. And next year, for sure, online fashion will be significantly bigger than electronics and mobile and notebooks combined. So Russia is going to have the same e-commerce structure as, let's say, Germany, UK, US, and China. And it's actually, in terms of margin delivered, because in e-commerce, the only thing that really matters is the margin you deliver. In terms of margin delivered, because in fashion, the margin is 50%, and in electronics, it's 7 to 10%. In terms of margin delivered in Russia, fashion is 60% of e-commerce. So it is by far, like, most people don't understand that, because people still ask, like, how can you buy a bike online? People still ask, how can you buy shoes online? But shoes is by far, in a single product category, by far the biggest thing online. And nobody predicted this, right? Like, over 20 years, people have predicted that documents will go fully online. Many things were predicted to go fully online, but the last thing people expected was shoes. Nobody talked about shoes. You can listen to all the conferences in the world. Nobody predicted this, but it's the single biggest. It's by far the biggest.
How big are shoes on Kupi?
So on Kupi, it's 30%. But in terms of acquisition, it's like 90%. Because if you look at banners, all the categories, they have like a click rate of 0.1, 0.05. But if you put shoes, it's like 1% click rate. So the shoes are attracting the most customers, the most attractive segment, and it's quite interesting because.
And is it mainly female shoes? Or
female.
About...
It's all about female.
Okay.
That's why nobody predicted it at conference.
I know what you're talking about, sadly. So let's talk about your business. When you started, I think the idea was to copy what happened in France with Mon Privé, do like the shopping clubs. We have seen the kind of private sales online market developing over the years with all the venture capitalists coming in after Jacques Antoine showed everyone how successful the model can be. Then we saw some of the US companies buying the European businesses. eBay bought Brands for Friends. Amazon bought KupiVIP in Spain. They were a little bit disappointed. Now, KupiVIP is, in terms of sales, one of the largest private sales businesses. Do you still think the private sales business model versus the time you started today is still something the market wants? Or let me put the question in a better way. KupiVIP started at private sales. What is your focus today?
Yeah, I think the key question to ask is not if the market wants it or not, but if women want it or not. And I think this has never changed. So over the last 6 years, the market, first private sales was the best in the world ever. Then it was the worst thing. You would not even get an entrance ticket to NOAH if you are private sales. And now it's again hot because VIP shop in China is worth 5 billion. So Von Privé is now not the biggest shopping club anymore. The VIP shop in China is worth $5 billion today. And Zuilili in the US is 1.5. So now it's again hot, and I get again, people calling in. But for the women, it was always the same. The women who buy, they love discounts. And in terms of Russia, in Russia, the entire internet is a discount segment. So unlike Germany, where you have on the internet full price and discount, in Russia, internet is discount.
And you still operate in the private sales model, or
yes.
do you also have a catalog these
so
days?
The way we look at e-commerce in Russia is that you have to be a platform. So you have to have everything in-house to run e-commerce. Warehouse, delivery, we have delivery over 500 cities in-house. We deliver 95% of our packages with our own hands. And we have inbound logistics, call center, development, everything in-house. So we are a platform, and we run 17 different front ends. So we run the fashion e-commerce business for brands. But in the same time, I still am extremely big believer in the fashion discount model, especially in the premium. We are in the premium segment, so everything we do is in the premium fashion category, because this makes us able to afford the high logistics cost. We are one of the few companies who can afford to do e-commerce in Russia in the segment we work in. So in terms of I think a lot of private sales clubs made the mistake because they didn't believe in the private sales segment. They started hyper business development. So because it was not a hot segment, people added coupons and travel, and people added all kinds of verticals. And so at some point, all the private sales clubs had like 7 different businesses inside that required 7 different core competencies. And Guild, they did men, they did travel, they did coupons, they did everything, and now they closed it back down. Now a lot of companies understand you cannot build 7 core competencies in the same company. So people have gone back to focus, and we focus strictly on premium fashion, and inside the premium fashion only on discount and the platform. So this is kind of our strategy right now, and we believe that in Russia the internet segment is really strongly dominated by discount. So the business model of private sales is actually in the strongest position. It's very hard, and all the full price retailers in Russia, they don't sell full price, they constantly discount.
But I was told that Amazon is selling a lot into Russia.
Yes, but this is discount, because for Russian buying at Amazon is discount, because Russia has created a fantastic system where they charge everybody who brings something into the country 38%, import duties, tax, and VAT, and they allow Amazon to ship to Russia completely tax-free. So everything you buy on Amazon from Russia is 30% cheaper, and the key categories are actually, iPhones, Samsung Galaxy. So people, when the Samsung Galaxy comes out, they just buy it 30% cheaper or 20% cheaper.
And do you expect the Russian government to change that loophole?
I mean, right now, the Alibaba Group is doing $2 billion in Russia. Alibaba Group is like, 15% of Russian e-commerce, shipping from China to Russia. So Alibaba is the biggest in Russia. eBay is the second biggest, Amazon is the third biggest, and the Russian companies have a very hard time to compete because 80% of the shipments into Russia are from the top 5 companies internationally. So the Russian government is subsidizing the biggest. These companies are bigger than Gazprom, And I think it will be changed, but as an entrepreneur, I don't really care. We just have to adapt. So we became international as well. So we are now doing the same. and we can give consumers even bigger discounts. So, but I expect this to change. I believe next year there will be a law that will require to order international. It will be the same like in Germany, where you have to pay tax above a certain limit.
Can you say if KupiVIP is making money?
I mean, we are a private company, but I can definitely say it's possible to do e-commerce profitably in Russia. I believe it's very, very hard. So the 15 billion market has not produced many great companies. There was maybe only a few exits, but there is no great companies produced yet. Not even in terms of exit, but just companies that you can really, obey. But I think the heat is going out, and now e-commerce companies are thinking like retailers. In Russia, if you talk to e-commerce companies, they have the same ideas and discussion as retailers in generally. They're not a separate category anymore. So everybody's working for profit, and nobody's working for some hype. So I think KupiVIP, we reached profitability several times, and it's in our control. So I believe it's absolutely possible.
Excellent. Well, Oskar is also involved in many startups in Russia unrelated to KupiVIP. I think you are probably backing the entire country when it comes to internet projects.
I love Russia, yes.
So when you want to learn about Russia, grab Oskar. He knows the market as he's developing the market.
Thank you, Marco.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.